Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast number 223. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the morning of Saturday, June the 5th, from the James Strong Studio in Western St. Charles County. This is June, and those of you that remember way back when the government did I think it was the last, maybe the second to the last stimulus package. One of the stipulations in that stimulus package, a rider to the bill, to the law, so to speak, was language that included a requirement for Congress, the public, through Congress, to be informed about findings from various government agencies throughout the years. UFO findings on UFOs, that is. Now, the official date is June 25th. That's when the presentation is going to be made to Congress this month, June 25th. That's the date. However, after searching a variety of sources, I found the highlights to that report that's going to be released to Congress on the 25th of June. So I'm going to give you a sneak preview, and I've looked at a variety of sources, very reputable sources, reputable news sources. These aren't coast-to-coast sites or anything like that. They're the New York Times, the Washington Post, the UK Express, the UK Sun, as well as interviews with a variety of individuals, very notable, very knowledgeable people who are not part of the UFO UAP community. So that's what today's essay is going to be about. That's what today's podcast is going to be about. A sneak preview as to what Congress is going to let the public, what the government is going to let the public know through Congress. Okay. And is this full disclosure? Well, you listen and you decide. Just to give you a little bit of a peek under the curtain, I will certainly say that this is the closest thing to full disclosure that we've ever had, ever, from the government. Okay, there's that new report, and it basically talks about what did happen and what they know and what they don't know. So it almost looks like the government's kind of coming clean here. American intelligence officials have found no evidence, according to the report, no evidence that aerial phenomenon witnessed by Navy pilots in recent years are alien spacecraft, or aliens, something not of this world. No evidence. However, they still cannot explain the unusual movements that have mystified scientists and the military. That's according to a senior administration official who was briefed on the findings of a highly anticipated government report. Now, the report determines that a vast majority of the more than 120 incidents over the past 2 decades did not originate from American military or other advanced U.S. government technology. Now, that determination would appear to eliminate the possibility that the Navy pilots who reported seeing unexplained aircraft might have encountered programs that the government meant to keep secret. Now, this, dear listeners, is huge. Basically, what they're saying is, look, there's no evidence that these came from another planet. But they might have, but there's no evidence that they certainly have. But one thing is for certain, they ain't ours, okay? They're not some secret thing we've been not informed the public about. This isn't something we've let the Navy take a peek at and just report. We don't know what it is, but it's not ours. And again, that's huge. That is huge. But really, that's about the only conclusive finding in this classified intelligence report. And while a forthcoming unclassified version is expected to be released from Congress on the 25th, it will really present few other firm conclusions. That's according to senior officials who were briefed. And they basically conceded that the very ambiguity of the findings means the government could not definitely rule out theories that the phenomenon observed by the military pilots might be alien spacecraft. And again, these 120 incidents, these weren't people who called into MUFON. These were Army, Navy, Air Force officials that officially reported this, military reports. Okay, 120 of them. That's a lot. Now, America's long-running fascination with UFOs has intensified in recent weeks in anticipation of the release of the government report. And even former President Barack Obama further stoked the interest on the late show with James Corden. That was last month. He was asked about the incidents, and this is what former President Barack Obama said. Now, remember, the guy's an ex-president, okay? And like his politics or not, he's been pretty forthcoming in what he's had to say. And I'm going to go ahead and quote directly what Barack Obama said on the James Corden show. What he said is, what is true, and what I'm actually being serious here, Mr. Obama said, is that there is footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. So even the former president of the United States is saying, look, we don't know what this is. They're not saying they're weather balloons. They're not saying it's swamp gas. They're not saying it's the planet Venus. They're saying, we don't know, but it ain't ours. Now, the report concedes that much of the observed phenomenon remains difficult to explain, including the craft acceleration, which as well as their ability to change direction and submerge into the ocean. Now, one possible explanation that the phenomenon could be weather balloons or other research balloons, that doesn't hold up in cases, the officials say, because of wind changes and wind speeds at the time of some of the interactions, okay? So what they're not saying is it's weather balloons or somebody's imagination, okay? They're not saying this is something that naturally happens and the guys just saw something they thought they saw. Now, the final report will also include what they call a classified annex, according to officials. Now, while this annex will not contain any evidence concluding that the phenomena are alien spacecraft, the officials acknowledged that the fact that it would remain off limit to the public was likely to continue to fuel the speculation that the government had secret data about alien visitations to Earth. Translation, there will be no full disclosure because there's going to be that classified annex that is not going to be released. And that may not be a bad thing. More on that later. Now, many of the more than 120 incidents examined in the report are from Navy personnel, the official said. The report also examined incidents involving foreign militaries over the last 2 decades. So just not U.S. military, but foreign military as well. Intelligence officials believe at least some of the aerial phenomena could have been experimental technology from a rival power, most likely Russia or China. Now, one senior official briefed on the intelligence said without hesitation that the U.S. officials knew it was not American technology. No ifs, ands, or buts, immediate answer. It's not ours. Now, he said there was worry among intelligence officials and military officials, too, that China or Russia could be experimenting with hypersonic technology. Now, he and other officials spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly about the classified findings, okay? Now, Russia has been investing very heavily in hypersonics, China too. Now, believing the technology does offer them the ability to evade American missile defense technology. China has developed hypersonic weaponry as well, and they've included it, they showed it off in their military parades. Now, if the phenomenon were Chinese or Russian aircraft, officials said, that would suggest the two powers' hypersonic research far outpaced American military development. Navy pilots were often unsettled about the sightings. One encounter, strange objects like one of them spinning like a top moving against the wind, appeared almost daily in the summer of 2014 all the way into March 2015. High in the skies over the East Coast. Now, Navy pilots report to their superiors that the objects had no visible engine, no infrared exhaust plumes, but they could reach 30,000 feet and hypersonic speeds. Lieutenant Ryan Graves, who's an FA-18 Super Hornet pilot, who was with the Navy for 10 years, told the New York Times in an interview, quote, these things would be out there all day. Now, with the speeds he and the other pilots observed, he said 12 hours in the air is 11 hours longer than we'd expect. In other words, they were in the sky for 12 straight hours. We don't have aircraft that can fly for 12 straight hours and do those types of things. Now, the Defense Department has been collecting such reports for more than 13 years as part of the shadowy, little-known Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program with the Pentagon. Now, the program analyzed radar data, video footage, and accounts provided by the Navy pilots and senior officers. Now, this program began way back in 2007 and was largely funded by Harry Reid, the Nevada Democrat who was the Senate Majority Leader at the time. It was officially shut down in 2012 when the money dried up. We've talked about this on past podcasts. But after the publication of a New York Times article back in 2017 about the program and criticism from program officials that the program was not forthcoming on reports of aerial phenomenon, the Pentagon restarted the program last summer as the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. Remember, we talked about that too. They call them UAPs because UFOs are for the tin hat crowd. However, UAPs, UFOs, same. The task force mission was to detect, analyze, and catalog sightings of strange objects in the sky that could pose a threat to national security. But government officials said that they also wanted to remove the stigma for service members who report UFO sightings in the hope that more would be encouraged to speak up if they saw something. The goal, officials said, was to give authorities a better idea of what might be out there. In other words, and Lieutenant Favor said this, that normally pilots don't mention this stuff because they're razzed, hazed, and made fun of by their counterparts and discounted by their superior officers. What the government is now saying is, we don't want you to not talk about this. We definitely want you to talk about this because we want to find out more information. To me, that's counter of anything. If this were a government cover-up for our own technology, they wouldn't be encouraging the military tell us more. They'd just discount them like they have been. Now, last year's lawmakers inserted this provision into the Intelligence Authorization Act that said the government must submit an unclassified report on what it knows about UFOs. Okay, again, that's the report we talked about that's going to be released tentatively June 25th. But they did say an unclassified report about what it knows. Okay. Now, officials briefed on the report said it examined video that shows a whitish oval object described as a giant tic tac about the size of a commercial plane encountered by two Navy fighter pilots off the coast of San Diego. That's the Captain Favor sighting. In the incident, pilots reported an interaction with the craft, which lasted for several minutes. At one point, the object peeled away. One of the pilots, Commander David Favor, said in an interview with the New York Times, it accelerated like nothing I've ever seen. Now, the report studies that incident and other incidents, including a video that accompanied the interaction. The object, they said, is still unknown. Now, interest in UFOs was stirred up last month when 60 Minutes aired footage of an infrared video of a UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, in the Pentagon parlors taken by military aircraft. Ryan Graves, a retired Navy pilot, said he and other pilots had similar sightings every day for several years. Objects recorded in such videos have baffled pilots, military and intelligence officials for their apparent defiance of known laws of flight and gravity. And that's according to Luis Elizondo, the former military intelligence official. Navy pilots struggled to understand the velocity and movements of the UAPs they captured on fighter jet sensors. Now, in one 2015 video recorded by an FA-18 Super Hornet, it tracked UAP powering through winds recorded at more than 130 miles an hour. And the pilots are heard discussing its possible origins before it isolate like the isolate.